So here we are in one of the most beautiful European cities, which is Krakow in Poland, which for years has been visited by millions of people from all around the world. It's a beautiful day, the sun is shining, so what else could we ask for? How about a very profound, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually conversation with one of the most famous, important founding fathers of personal development, with a business consultant, the one who has worked all over the world and visited more than 70 countries, the one who has written more than 70 books translated into 40 languages, the one who is observed by 2 million people on his Facebook account, and the one who knows everything about time management, planning, and is expert on how to achieve success. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and pleasure to interview my today's guest, Brian Tracy. So Brian, thank you so much for being here, and I'm so glad that I can ask you a question, especially when you have visited again and again and again this country where all your knowledge and your abilities are helping us to grow. And I was born in Poland, and there's a spiritual and emotional connection I have with those people, and I perceive there's a lot of potential which Poles don't take advantage of. From your point of view, what can we as the nation do more of? What's our potential that we don't perceive losing opportunity?
Every human being has an intense desire to improve themselves. It is the driving force of all of human life throughout history. And all you need to do is remove the barriers from ambition and goal setting and achievement, and people will naturally strive for the barriers, strive for the goals. Here's the problem. The problem is 70 years of communism. 70 years of communism kills the soul in most people. So it takes a full generation after communism before a whole new people grows up who do not have any of these limits. So you'll find that most of your successful entrepreneurs in Poland are younger, and they have no limits because they did not grow up under that system. Now, if Poland wants to be more prosperous in the future, and it's already one of the most prosperous countries in the world, number 2 in Europe.
Well,
and if it wants to be more prosperous, it must take away regulations and taxes that hold people back from starting new businesses and enterprises. That is the key to success in every economy in the world throughout history.
all right. Is there a mentality involved in it as well? Because one thing is, you know, the outer world, taxes, regulations, laws, and so on. Another thing is mentality, openness towards success, knowing personal branding, and all the other things that are quite helpful in it.
In my experience, and I've taught this for more than 30 years, it is the way that parents treat children when they are growing up that sets their mind for when they become adults. It's almost like they set down concrete, and the concrete foundation is the way they think about themselves. So what I've done with my children, and what many of my students have done with their children, is continually feed them this positive message that when you grow up, you can do anything. You can do anything you put your mind to. And whenever they're discouraged, you say, look, just keep trying. You can do anything you put your mind to. And you program it into them, just like you're programming a mental computer. And when they grow up and they take on challenges and they have setbacks and disappointments, they say, hey, wait a minute, I can do anything I put my mind to. And then they never quit. You see, the most important quality for success is to never quit. If you never quit, then you must eventually be successful.
All right. This is an important topic you're bringing up, which is parenthood. Because mostly, from my experience, we are limited by, it's either a lack of knowledge of our parents, how to bring us up, or it's culture, like communism that you mentioned. I can also see a lot of opportunity in soft skills education, like communication and personal branding and sales. And something that I've come across here in this country is that people are very clever when it comes to intellectual topics. They know physics, they know chemistry, they know history. I mean, you ask an average teenager, they will know all the capital cities of the world on the map. But when it comes to selling themselves, when it comes to the ability to talk, to convince people, then out of my experience, I don't know what yours is, people tend to put it aside. And I'm worried that they are losing a lot of opportunity that they could have if they employed more soft skill education.
Well, again, I've spoken on this for many years, And when I was growing up, my parents were Catholic and very critical, criticizing all the time. And so eventually I reached the point where I didn't want to speak up at all because I would be criticized. And this has happened to more than 80% of the population. So with my children, I have 4 children, I've encouraged them always to express themselves. Never made them feel guilty. They can say anything that they want. They can argue, they can fight, they can disagree, and they've grown up to the point where they expect to be able to express themselves, and they're all good salespeople.
All
They're
right.
all wonderful at persuasion, and they're very popular with their friends because they have complete self-confidence.
Do you think that those sets of skills like sales, persuasion, communication, emotional intelligence are universal and don't depend on the culture?
Yes, but they can be learned.
Yeah.
And when my 2 sons graduated from college, they came to me 4 or 5 years apart and asked me for my advice on how to be successful. And I said, go out and get a sales job, knocking on doors and making sales. And do that for 6 months or a year. And after that, you'll never be afraid again. And they both did it. And today they are so confident and so persuasive, and they're so relaxed. My one son said, I'll never have to worry about money again because I'm not afraid to sell.
All right.
And that made me so happy.
So you consider sales and ability to persuade one of the most important skills?
According to Harvard, it is the #1 personality skill. The most important of all personality skills is your ability to persuade others to cooperate with you, to work with you, to do their work, to buy your products. Because the reverse of that is that you are simply persuaded by others to do what they want.
Yes, which means you are not a leader, but you're led by someone else.
Yes.
All right.
So the leader is always good at persuasion.
All right. Do you think it's connected with certain aspects of educational systems that we have? Because mostly at schools we're educated what chemistry is, what physics is, what geography is, but unfortunately you cannot have an MBA, at least in this country, when it comes to sales. I mean, you can be an expert in how bees produce honey, but you cannot be an expert in sales.
Well, people choose their occupations based on their personalities. People choose to be teachers because they, deep down inside, they fear depending upon their ability to persuade for their income. So they choose a profession where they don't have to actually get results. And once they have tenure, they can never be fired. That's why people work for the government.
All right.
Because once you get a job with the government, after a reasonable period of time, you have job security for lunch, and you never have to persuade anyone to be successful. Entrepreneurs are completely different.
Yeah.
They are willing to make all of their success dependent on their ability to get results of some kind.
Okay, so there is a difference in mentality.
Yes.
You take those 2 people, and one is more risk-oriented, more open, more tough, most probably, when it comes to solving real-life problems.
Yes. What they are is they are more resilient. In other words, they bounce back. They keep bouncing back. You know, one of the things that I've told my children when they were growing up, because I am programming them, I say, you know, I know one thing about you, you never give up. And each of my children, they would say, oh, I got this. I said, well, I'm your father, and I know one thing about you, you never give up. All 4 of my children are growing up. And if you ask them, do you ever give up? No, they never give up. And they don't. They try different things, but they never give up. And so that's part, and then they look for fields of opportunity where this quality can be very useful. Sales, marketing, persuasion, entrepreneurship, business, training, consulting. They look for opportunity areas where they will be successful because they will never give up.
Great. Having been to so many different cultures and countries, do you see any universal traits that successful people have that don't depend on age, gender, or culture that they come from?
The most important quality is ambition, is a very intense desire to improve yourself through your own efforts. And ambition is the one quality that if you have it, you will be successful. And if you don't have it, nothing can help you.
All right.
I had a man in my seminar who came up and he said, look, he said, I make a good income, I'm quite happy, I have no desire to earn any more money. And so you talk about ambition, what do you suggest I should do? And I said, why don't you go and shoot yourself? Because you have no future. If you're not hungry to improve your life, you know, it's interesting. Men, when they get married, increase the amount that they work by 30 or 40 or 50%.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, and they also increase their time management. They become more productive because now they are providing and taking care of their family.
Yeah.
And that's very important for men, to know that I'm taking good care of my family. So their level of ambition or desire or determination goes up when they get married, because now they want to be sure that their family is well taken care of.
No, right?
And they even die, and men die an average of 7 or 8 years younger than women do, because they're willing to work very, very hard their whole life.
Brian has been talking a lot about the importance of the family, and I'd like to elaborate on this and take a moment to express my highest gratitude and say thank you to all the husbands and wives who are supportive and helpful when it comes to successful spouses. It's very important to realize that sometimes you see someone on the front stage, someone who's a business leader, someone who's a famous person, maybe even a celebrity, and we see them shining and being beautiful and effective and doing great things. In the same time, what we don't see is the backstage. We don't see people who are helping them. We don't see the people who are motivating them. We don't see people who are always there to help them in very difficult moments and in crisis. It's a very important and statistical fact that husbands, people who are married, live longer lives. People who are happily married, they have less health problems. People who have families are grounded, are centered, and can perform better. The success which we usually connect in our Western world with having more money, with being more successful at what you do, with having a higher status in the society, is only one side of the coin. Another one is the fundamental role of family, which always makes sure that someone can perform very well when outside. So let's not forget, and let's remember, all of us, that if you see a very successful person, always you will find a very successful team of employees, of family members, of people who are supporting them, and people thanks to whom they can shine. Thank you so much for being there. Can ambition be learned?
It's very hard, however, you can learn it by associating with other ambitious people. Let me give you an example. There are multi-level marketing, network marketing companies here in Poland and all over the world. And many people are attracted into these companies, or their friends bring them into the companies, and they may not be very ambitious. They may be working class, if you like. They may come from limited homes. They may be working at average jobs. But then they start to go to the meetings, and everyone is talking about success and hard work and persistence and achievement. And then they have speakers who talk about this. And then suddenly it's almost like lights go on, and they think, I can do this too. I know that person from school, and look how successful he is, or she is. And suddenly they realize, I can do this. I can do that as well. And they become totally different people. And a few years later you meet them, and a person who was shy and quiet and lacking self-confidence at school now is got a big organization, and they're giving speeches, and they live in a big house. And who is that?
So one of the ways is to surround yourself with the people who can inspire you, who are ambitious, who most probably know more than you do.
50 years of research at Harvard came up with this conclusion, is your choice of the people that you associate with will have more influence on your success and happiness than any other factor in your life. At Harvard, they call this your social group. And they are the people that you identify with, your friends at work, your people that you go out for dinner with. Your spouse is a very important part of this. If you have a really positive spouse, many men have been transformed into very successful men because their spouse was so supporting and so positive. And they thought, well, I can do this. When I was a young man and got married, I had an incident where I started a business and I lost all my money. And I had to sell my house. I had a house. And I had to sell everything and move into a small house. And I said to my wife, I said, you know, we may lose all of our money if my business keeps going this way. And she said, well, it's only money. I know you'll be successful sooner or later. And I never forgot that, because her confidence in me was 100%. And that enabled me to go out and work and make mistakes and lose money and even move to a small house and even move to a rented house and then a rented apartment. But because of her confidence, at least partially, I eventually became very successful.
Is it connected with having work-life balance as well? Because we spoke about surrounding yourself with positive people, but also you're mentioning that having a family and then well-established marriage might be helpful.
Yes. It's very important to understand that when you are young, you must work extremely hard to be successful. The average is about 60 hours a week. If you're not working 60 hours a week in your 20s and 30s, then you probably will not be very successful in life. You'll always worry about money. You'll never have enough money. So therefore, you have to have imbalance at a certain stage in your life. But then you have to make up for it. So for example, I work and travel long distances. But when I'm not working and traveling, I spend all of my time with my family. My children once said to me, we were having dinner, and they all agreed. They said, you spend more time with us than, even though you travel all the time, than our friends' parents do, even though they're at home all the time. Because their parents play golf, watch television, work on the computer, do other things. But when I'm not working, I spend time with my family, and that's how I've been able to achieve balance.
That's very important what you're saying, also from our Polish point of view, because when it comes to reproduction and family, orientation, less and less Poles are deciding to have children. And one of the reasons is connected with the fact that they are so career-oriented and so professional-oriented that they don't see that career and family not only can go together, but also should go together, because we need this work-life balance to be able to function happily.
I've studied this, and so has The Economist magazine of England. And they did a report on this, and they said the higher you raise the taxes in any country, the lower is the birth rate. Because people lose hope for the future. And the higher the retirement pensions are, and the earlier they begin, the less people have children. Because they cannot afford to pay for the previous generation, their parents and grandparents, plus the new generation. So they just put off having children because they don't have enough money. And so if you lower taxes, what happens is people have more hope for the future. And it's only when you have hope that you have children.
Of course. And then you become more entrepreneurial, more ambitious, and then you're out of the vicious circle, then you can have more money, then you're more happy, and everything goes the way it should.
And some people say, well, I want to have work-life balance. Yes, but it's too soon. First of all, you must be successful.